Hello everybody, it's Infinity Break, coming at you today with another top 5 video. Now today, I want to talk about Daggerfall. If you guys don't know, I've been playing a lot of Daggerfall Unity lately. It's really nice, and if you don't know what Daggerfall Unity is, I'm going to tell you real quick. Daggerfall Unity is a fan-made project, a wonderful little thing that takes Daggerfall from the DOS version of Daggerfall and shoves it into the brand new, flexible, and very versatile Unity engine. If you want to know how to use it, where to get it, how to install it, how to run it properly, and what specs you'll need, I made a video talking about it that I'll link in the description, and you can check it out at the very end of the video. But that's just if you're interested in it. You guys are here for a top 5, and I thought I'd talk about Daggerfall, and the top 5 things that Daggerfall did right. Number 5. Character creation. Now, if you guys don't know, Daggerfall's character creation isn't like Skyrim. You don't just sit there for 10 minutes and create your character. It's not very in-depth on appearance. What it is in-depth on is your stats, your background, and your class. Your skills and class are kind of just like Arena, nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. They kind of just drug that over. But what I really think is cool is that your background can be determined. Your background and how people view you in today's day and light based off of your previous actions, or your character's previous actions, I should say. You answer questions about what kind of weapons do you train with, what kind of person were you friends with when you were little, you got gifts when you were little, did you get gold, did you get a weapon, what kind of people like you, are you friendlier with most creatures than other creatures, and this kind of stuff actually does build a background that's written in your journal at the very beginning of the game. And I just like that. It makes your character feel like a real character. And you created them, and you answer these questions based off of what you want, so your background is never something predetermined that you don't want. It's something that you picked and you like and you are fine with. Therefore, you just like your character's background because it's something you decided. I don't know, this kind of stuff just makes it seem a little bit different than a lot of the other Elder Scrolls games, because no other game seems to really have this system, at least not in the Elder Scrolls. So this game, Daggerfall, managed to pull this off very well. And all the other attributes that you can even pick special little traits like rapid healing, weakness to certain things. You can really roleplay, and it actually affects the difficulty of the game, as well as, picking obviously your class, rolling for certain stats. And I just like this timer. I think Daggerfall's character creation, like I said, the best in my opinion in the series. So that's one of the first things I think of when I think of the top 5 things it's done right. Number 4, banking, transportation, and property. One of the best parts about Daggerfall is it truly is a simulation of what you really are expected when you think of a citizen in Tamriel, more specifically citizens around the Iliac Bay, as I know people in Skyrim and people in Blackmarsh live completely differently, just as much as people in the Iliac Bay and the Somerset Isles live differently. They're obviously going to have a little bit more of a watered-down version, as the Iliac Bay is one of the more tamer, more vanilla versions of Tamriel, but it's still kind of cool to see that they integrated a lot of cool features into the game, some of which involve the bank, the transportation, and of course, the properties. You are able to own a ship, a horse, a carriage, and a house. Each one of these acts differently. A house is just your standard home, you can store stuff in it, and that's really about it. You can save there, rest there, and really it's just kind of like if you have a house in the city, instead of going to an inn, you can go to your house and you can rest, which is kind of nice. And if you have a ship, which is a step up, the ship actually can go places. It can go anywhere along the coast, any sort of coast-bearing village or town or wherever. You can just go there with your ship, dock there, and basically it's a more superior version of a house. The only thing is you can't go inland with it, which kind of sucks, but at least it's more mobile than a house just stuck in one spot of the gigantic map that is Daggerfall. Horses work just like regular transportation, obviously. In games like Skyrim and Oblivion, horses function similarly to that of Daggerfall's horses. Horses are just a way to get around. It's when you get a cart or a carriage is when you really start to see how awesome having a horse and carriage really is. Because if you don't know anything, you need money to do a lot of things in Daggerfall, to buy a lot of things, to get better equipment, to enchant things, to make spells, to do anything. Anything in the Elder Scrolls in general requires money. And getting money is not that hard, but it's not necessarily easy. But getting a carriage makes it so much more easy, as dungeon crawling in Daggerfall is one of the best ways to ever make money. Exploring a dungeon in Daggerfall is probably one of the most I suppose you could say, profitable things to do in the entire game. Obviously, doing quests and stuff will land you a reward, but half the time, it's the dungeon that you go on or explore in the quest that will land you the most money in your adventure. Getting treasures, artifacts, selling them off at pawn shops, getting armors, getting swords and weapons and other such equipment, enchanted clothes, robes, just finding gold in general in these places is actually extremely profitable. Selling them off, if you can fill up your cart as much as possible, which there is an option when you go to the exit of a dungeon, it actually will pop up if you want to drop your stuff off in your cart instead of just exit the dungeon and reload it completely when you go back in. If you select this, you can put as much stuff as the cart can carry into the cart itself. The cart carries around 750 pounds, which is a lot. Your character normally only carries 100. So if you count the armor and stuff, you can carry roughly about 50-60 pounds worth of stuff back to your cart to put in there for later to sell off. And that's just in one trip. So to shorten it, basically, you can go back to a town at one point after going dungeon crawling with over 20,000 septums worth of loot that you can sell to specific vendors around each town. Obviously, you can't sell everything to one person, but you can sell a lot of stuff to pawn shops, to armorers, to general stores, to alchemists, and it's awesome. That's one of the reasons I like the cart system so much, is that you can carry a lot of loot, and I really want to see them return in another game, but until then, at least we have it in Daggerfall. And the last part, banks. Banks are interesting. You can save your money, because in this game, money weighs something. You can put your money into the bank, and the bank will hold on to it. You can get letters of credit, and you can bring those to a bank and cash them, or just put it all into your account. Or you can even pull loans out, which is kind of cool. You can buy properties and ships through the banks themselves, and you can buy horses and carriages at a general store. This system is cool. I love this part of Daggerfall. I love being able to basically bring a huge carriage or ship or whatever with me, and being able to carry as much loot as I want back from an adventure, which is just awesome. I don't need to be able to carry 250 pounds worth of weight. As long as I can put my stuff on my carriage or on my ship or in my house, I'm fine with that, which is awesome. And as for banks, I do want to see banks return in the future, but like I said, I don't know what direction Elder Scrolls 6 will be going into. I'm hoping it will pull a couple notes from Daggerfall, as well as some of the other awesome parts of the original entries in the franchise, but it's all up in the air right now. Number 3, equipment. Now when I say equipment, I don't mean the style of how certain armors and stuff look. I mean, like, there is a lot of stuff you can equip in this game. Between clothes, armors, weapons, what kind of shield you're holding, between the jewelry that you're going to wear, I think there's somewhere around 20 slots that you can equip. Between that, and then you compare it to Skyrim, which you can only wear your armor, your boots, your gauntlets, your helmet, and your shield, whatever weapon you're holding in your other hand, as well as a ring and an amulet. That's less than 10 slots. Daggerfall has maybe double, maybe even triple the number of slots that Skyrim has. I've noticed as the Elder Scrolls go on, we lose equipment slots. And that also weakens our character overall, because all these different equipment slots that you can equip actually can be enchanted with different effects. Meaning that there's a higher ceiling when it comes to skill for those people that actually enchant all of their stuff, which is awesome, because you can wear clothes under your armor in Daggerfall as well as armor itself, and you can enchant your weapons and you can enchant your jewelry, so you're wearing like 20 different enchanted items. It really begins to add up after a while, doesn't it? Especially if each one of those has a spell or something equipped to it, like a healing spell or just damage resistance, or a spell that's active when you wear it, which is, again, really freaking cool. And I really want to see that kind of return. More slots, like in Morrowind and Oblivion, we could wear pants, boots, you could wear, obviously, gauntlets, as well as, like, a chest piece and a helmet. In Morrowind, you could wear clothes over, or underneath it, you wear, like, a cloak over your armor, and there were pauldrons and stuff. And now it's all just being thrown into one unique armor set in Skyrim, and I'm kind of starting to notice that as time goes on, that we're seeing less armor pieces, which is kind of sad, because that leaves less room for enchantments and stuff, which is one of the major things that I really kind of like about the early games. Number 2, factions and guilds. Now I know it's a little weird to be bringing up the factions and guilds of all things, but I like how there are so many factions and guilds that you can join in Daggerfall. And I'm not just talking about the guilds like the Fighters Guilds, the Mages Guild, or the Thieves Guild. I'm talking about like the temples and the knightly orders that are added on, because they add another layer. You can be a member of multiple factions, of multiple guilds, but you can't be a member of more than one knightly order or more than one temple. It's kind of cool because it really devotes you on one path. You can't be the jack of all trades and be a knight for Daggerfall's knightly coven, and then for Sentinel's knightly coven, because both of those factions hate each other and would never be on the same. You couldn't have one person who was both. It just makes sense. And I like the idea that the knightly orders are different than the Fighters Guild. The Fighters Guild later on, like in Oblivion, took over the knightly order faction, because in the knightly order you were doing things like rescuing the nobility, going into crypts and fighting vampires and such, whereas the Fighters Guild would just go clean out people's houses and would go and try to just get rid of giants and other such things that were harming other people's properties and such. The Fighters Guild felt more like a mercenaries guild, which it was, and the Knightly Order felt like someone, or a group that I should say, would be sent out to help individuals of the nobility and other such people that were important politically. And once you pledge yourself to a region's faction, such as the Knightly Order for Daggerfall, like I said, you won't be able to join the Sentinel faction, or Wayrest faction, or anywhere else. You are only going to be a part of that faction unless you leave that faction. And I like that because if you were in that area as a knight of that area, you wouldn't pay for inns or anything else like that. There were benefits, but once you went into that other area as a knight from that other region, if that region didn't like that region, you would be treated more harshly over there than you would in your home faction or your home region, which was kind of cool. I just kind of like this, especially since the guilds have more perks. Like the Fighters Guild, you could get stuff repaired a lot cheaper, you can get special training there. The Mages Guild, you could teleport from one place to the next, like even in Morrowind this was a feature, and you could even enchant and make spells. The Knightly Orders, you could eventually get up where you can get free equipment, where you would get paid a lot, where the nobility would like you, and even get rewarded with a property if you were a member of the Knightly Order in a specific city. If you were a high enough member, or a high enough ranking member of that knightly faction, you would even be given a house, which is kind of cool. I kind of want to see this return. Having different factions that are, assigned different things, like in New Vegas, where there was Caesar's Legion and there was the NCR, you couldn't be a member of both because they hated each other. So, I kind of like the idea of that stuff returning, and New Vegas kind of showed that even in the modern day and age, it can still be done. So I hope that this kind of thing returns in Elder Scrolls 6, but this is still one of my favorite parts of Daggerfall, is of course the factions and the guilds. And finally, the number one spot. What is the one thing I like the most about Daggerfall? Well, the number one spot is the story. Now, when I say the story, I don't actually mean I love the story the most. The story for Daggerfall is cool, but I like the aspects of the story. The multiple endings, the multiple factions you can side with, the different branching routes, the different outcomes that can occur based on your decisions and who you side with. Letters are sent to you. Who you go with, who you side with, is entirely up to you. And I like that there's this open chance. It's the only game in the series to do that, as every other game after Daggerfall had one ending and one ending only. And I understand why Bethesda did it. They wanted to have the lore be a little bit more concise and not have to pick one faction to have one person's choice make more or have more weight than the other person's when it comes to playing, as then some people that made those decisions would be upset because they like those outcomes the same. But even then, like stuff like with the Skyrim Civil War, that has yet to be decided, no one knows what that is, and no one knows what the outcome of that is. So apparently Bethesda is still doing this, but just not towards the main story anymore, which kind of sucks. The other thing about the main story that I really like, that again, I really want to see return, is the chance to just ignore it. I like that in Daggerfall, the main story wasn't that important. You didn't have to do it. A lot of the creators behind the scenes even said that the main story was never their focus. They just wanted to make the game itself fun. And some of the creators even said they never did the main story. They never played the main story. They just wanted to go and do their own thing. Daggerfall is a simulation of what being an adventurer in Tamriel is. And it was all about the character, the gameplay, the quests, being able to free roam and own things. That's what it was about. It was never about the main story. Having that kind of option when you go to play an Elder Scrolls game is awesome. Playing any open world game, having the option to just ignore the main story is awesome. Being able to do whatever you want is always just as good as having a good story. Because if your gameplay is fun enough, and the world you're in is explorative and open and really fun and nice to just be in, sometimes you don't even need to have a story. Obviously having the story is nice, but being able to ignore it is also just as nice if the world is immersive enough. And that's my favorite part about Daggerfall, because I've never actually felt like I really needed to do the story. I get caught up in doing other things that are just as fun as the main story, and I just love that. Well guys, that was my top 5 things that I think Daggerfall did right. I really liked making this video. I really like Daggerfall. I'm probably going to make a couple other versions of this kind of list, you know, pertaining to Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, maybe even Arena, maybe ESO, maybe even the Fallout games. I might do a couple of these, mostly because they're easy. I get to just discuss my favorite aspects of these games, and I get to talk about, you know, just a lot of the things I like and just in general, and stuff that I want to see in the future entries as well. If you guys think I missed something that I didn't mention in this video, please go ahead and put it down in the comment section, not just for me to see, but for everybody else to see. Get a discussion going. And if you guys want to see any more topics be explored in the future, just let me know. Put a comment down in the comment section, hit me up through any of my links down in the description, to my Twitter, my Discord, or just email me. It's fine. I always answer my stuff. And honestly, if you guys have any topics you want me to cover, like theories or other videos like lore videos, or if you want me to cover mods or do any sort of testing or reviewing on them, like I said, let me know through any of those other regions that you could reach me through. Anyway, this has been Infinity Break, reminding you all to say it with me now. Play well, eat well, and of course live well, friends. I hope you guys go out there and strive to break infinity, and hope you guys have a nice day, night, evening, wherever and whenever you're at. Take it easy, guys.